and for the international order that we have worked for generations to build. Ordinary men and women are too small-minded to govern their own affairs. That order and progress can only come when individuals surrender their rights to an all-powerful sovereign.
Joe Biden's up there like, hey, look at me. I'm the big guy now. I got my big boy pants on. Fucking Biden.
There is this inextricable tie between culture, religion, ethnicity that most people don't fully understand. That is unique and, how can I say it? So strong with Jews worldwide. There is a, I mean, you know, I used to say early on when I was a kid, I'd say, when I was a young senator, I'd say, if I were a Jew, I'd be a Zionist. I am a Zionist. You don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist.
Saying he's a military police, and he says, and we've been sent footage before by military police and others, so I want this footage of them in briefings openly talking about gun confiscations. Now, that's now in the manuals that they're training to quarantine cities and towns and confiscate guns. We've had Navy SEALs on confirming it. We have the documents. We know that. But footage, not just in some Army manual, but footage could really, really hurt the folks that are trying to covertly prepare the military for basically civil war. Brian, obviously, you've got to go back in right now. Tell us as much as you can and how we get this footage, but describe it for us.
Okay, so I was in a briefing with FEMA. FEMA runs my old unit. I'm actually out now. I got out in September of this year. They were talking about suspension of the Constitution, Second and Fourth Amendment rights being taken away, and I openly asked him, are we going to take guns? He says no, but he says they will. It's clearly on the video. They will, talking about the FEMA guys with us. So that's the gist of the video. You could, I'm filming the floor because it kind of startled me when they said that they're going to suspend the Constitution under martial law, which is pretty scary to me.
Essentially, yeah, you pretty much at that time, your Second Amendment, or all your rights, First Amendment rights, pretty much everything is at that moment just interrupted. Yeah.
So you said that martial law suspends their Second Amendment, so I'm not going to, but would you say we would take weapons from people?
Yeah, that's what they do. Yeah.
That's what they do, but I'm
yes, I wouldn't agree with that either. I'm I believe the Second Amendment. But
okay.
Essentially during a moment of martial law, we've lost all control. They're pretty much saying when the military moves in on your street, they are now saying you have no more rights, pretty much you're going inside your house. That's like the worst case scenario. So I'm saying when the way they're not looking at it is really for the guardian Jews, that's how it's going to be used.
Yeah.
So we're not going to be out there on the street corner and like, hey, we're here. Unless you're like your assistant with some kind of event, you're not going to be involved in a riot and not really have any authority to do it.
No, you're not going to go knocking on doors and be like, all right, I need a shotgun. Here. No. You're not going to like go up to each house and say.
Well, they did that in Katrina, is why I'm asking. And if we're talking about shit hitting the fan, I'm not going to do it. But
they're not going to do that necessarily. It's more or less like, hey, go in your house, shut up, stay there. That's what we do.
Okay.
Because that reason they have martial law in place is it's one of those situations where, like I said, everything's already broken down. It's a last resort to change pretty much your last ditch effort to put that law and order into that community. That's why they have the actual guard.
Okay.
Good question. I think they did that in Katrina, right? They just go and take their people's guns.
Yeah. Which I think is bullshit, but.
You're going to claim your right to the price when you hold their hands?
Yeah.
We're going to get political right now.
Another question on the in an interview with the Los Angeles Times on April 21st, you said that you told the Associated Press that the American government has created weather tampering techniques so that the New World Order will be able to starve millions of Americans and to control the rest. Would you explain what you were trying to say?
Well, what I was trying to say is exactly what I said. There is weather control techniques
We have a complete package on that, which I did not bring, but I certainly will see to it that it is brought in for the record. Number one, the entire patents on the equipment. Number two, Senator Claiborne Pell's complete statement and story of his own that not only does it exist, but that we even utilized it as far back as the Vietnam War. You might want to touch base
That's
with
right,
Senator
but
Pell.
I just want to repeat before I turn to
So yes,
questions.
but we
You're
do
saying
have
that
all
the
that
government-
information.
You're saying the government has created weather tampering techniques so that the, quote, New World Order will be able to starve millions of Americans.
Worldwide.
Millions of Americans, and to control the rest.
Yes, sir, and that's my belief. As bizarre as that sounds, if somebody had told me that that equipment even existed 10 years ago, I would have thought they were nuts, sir. And at this point in time, we have all the documents to prove it. And if you think that 85 tornadoes takes place in the middle of our growing area by simultaneous accident, I'm sorry. With the equipment that's already set up internationally, and as bizarre as that is, it is proven and documented. We will supply you with those documents. As bizarre as that is, I would say that weather wars, and this is quoting actually Senator Claiborne Pell himself, that they are the greatest weapon ever created in the world, and that's the Senator's own statement. So yes, I do stand on that.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator.
Gandhi whatever the differences between them, cling to the truth with respect for the unique dignity of every human being. A new world order, a civilization of love can be achieved. May God guide us and bless us as we strive to work together hand in hand and build together a world of peace.
I have documents that were printed back in 1922. I'm going to put on the web if we can get it up tonight. Back in 1922, 32, and 40, in which the old ancient British Israel World Federation, founded back in the late 1700s by the British royalty under the auspices of the Vatican, in which they talked about the coming new order of the world, the New World Order, and they based it on the old pyramidology. But I've got about 5 different places we're going to put on the web for you to read it. I'm not just saying it, read it. It says that the very end of civilization as we know it and the beginning of the new order of the world will come in September of 2001. In the mid of September 2001, the British Israel World Federation, operating behind the British throne in England and operating out of the Vatican, will make its final and last assault on the world of politics. And it says September, mid-September will be the date, and this is far back as 1922. September, mid-September 2001 will be the mark. That's the date that's been set up for the last and final assault by the British Israel World Federation behind British royalty to consummate and complete their plan for a new order of the world. I'm telling you, all of this stuff that's going on has been written for a long time, but if you don't know anything about the Anglo-Israel World Federation, if you don't know where the money comes from, if you're not aware of the fact that so many of our so-called cults in this country, like the Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, Seventh-day Adventists, Worldwide Church of God, are all British Israel cults that are being financed out of London, MI5 and MI6. If you don't understand the way this tune works and how the words are connected and the secret societies operating throughout Europe, if you don't understand how this stuff is working, you're never going to figure it out, and you're going to be ushered into a whole new order of the world, and you're going to lose your country, you're going to lose your freedom, you're going to lose it all, and these people are playing for a high-stakes game. And I'm telling you, when you read 1922 and 1932
and
articles written...
Who wrote that stuff?
It's written by the world. It's called the British Israel World Federation. that when you understand British Israel World Federation is actually financed and organized out of London by MI5 British intelligence, and it is connected directly to the Vatican, now you begin to understand where Adolf Hitler comes from, what the First and Second World War were all about, and and then when you read, it says mid-September, September 17th of 2001 is when everything's going to break loose. In mid-September, that's when the whole thing begins in its final, ultimate assault on the world is coming, and we are planning it for mid-September of 2001. That's back in 1922.
The cogent rhetoric of revolution hung heavy in the air in the nation's capital overnight.
There is one last thing to which the people can resort if the government does not respect the restraints that the Constitution places on the government. Abraham Lincoln talked about our right to alter our government, or a revolutionary right to overthrow it. And that is certainly something that no one wants to contemplate.
The House Judiciary Committee heard from a panel of legal scholars on the constitutionality and legality of actions taken by the Obama administration, focusing on the feeble mandates in the Affordable Care Act and the enforcement of the short-sighted immigration laws.
We have to repair a broken immigration system, and that this progress is only possible when we do it together.
If you can dispense with immigration laws or marijuana laws or mandatory minimums, can you also dispense with election laws?
Again, I think we've gone over this ground many times.
Well, just humor me. Let's do it one more time. Can the president suspend election laws?
No.
Why not? If he can suspend mandatory minimum and immigration laws, why not election laws?
Because we live in a government of laws, and the president is bound to obey them and apply them.
There was a fight with James I about what was called the royal prerogative. It's very similar to what President Obama is claiming, the right of the king to essentially stand above the law.
The growing assertion of power by this president to do things to change laws, that's not his responsibility. That's the Congress's clearly delegated responsibility to write the laws. But even with Obamacare, his signature legislation, when he finds things in it that he doesn't like, he rewrites the law, even though the law itself doesn't give him any authority to do that.
George Washington Law School professor Jonathan Turley weighed in on the perishing of the legislative branch.
Is that it's not only being circumvented, but it is also being denied the ability to enforce its inherent powers. Many of these questions are not close in my view. The president is outside the line. But it has to go in front of a court, and that court has to grant review. And that's where we have the most serious constitutional crisis I view in my lifetime. And that is, this body is becoming less and less relevant.
Clearly, a criminal administration is holding our highest seats of power hostage. When will the government of the people, by the people, for the people, wield the hammer of justice rather than simply discuss the laundry list of tyranny in the nation's capital? For the InfoWars Nightly News, John Bound reporting.
Mr. Speaker, the President's Justice Department sold weapons to narco-terrorists south of our border who killed one of our finest. The President's State Department lied about Benghazi with false information provided by the White House. The President's Attorney General authorized spying on a Fox News journalist and his family for reporting on a North Korean nuclear test. The President's Justice Department confiscated phone records of the Associated Press because they reported on a thwarted terrorist attack. The President's Treasury Department uses the IRS to target political opposition. The President's Health and Human Services Secretary pressures the insurance companies she is supposed to regulate to promote Obamacare, which is the same law she uses to force citizens to pay for abortion-inducing drugs against their religious liberties. Mr. Speaker, the President's dishonesty, incompetence, vengefulness, and lack of moral compass lead many to suggest that he is not fit to lead. The only problem is that his Vice President is equally unfit and even more embarrassing.